All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, this morning. We're going to give you guys we have you captured for the next half hour to talk a little bit about the current moment in AI. But before we get to all that, I'd like to have my panel introduce themselves and maybe give you guys a little bit of an idea of, kind of where they come from and what perspective they're bringing to us on this panel. We'll just start at the far end, if we could, with Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. So my name is Alex Liu. I came from Freusa AI. So Freusa is one of the AI chip company working on the next generation AI accelerators. So we can solve the power efficiency problem and also scale problem for the industry. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Brian.
I'm Brian Satyanathan, co-founder of a company called Iterate.ai. If you were to describe us in one word, it's like we are a full stack AI platform. We are used by several large enterprises, and we've run AI at scale, all the way from retail to banking to insurance to healthcare. We have solutions in AI. Our platform has a fast runtime that can run across many silicon chips, including the Ampere platform as well. Our goal is to provide a really quick turnkey solution with agent building and other capability, vibe coding, drag and drop capabilities to enterprises that want to build AI applications quickly and go to market fast.
And Ruben.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ruben Kanapati Pillai. I am Senior Vice President at ASA Computers Rack Live in Silicon Valley. ASA Rack Live has been around more than 35 years, and they have been in the forefront of deploying IT technologies into the enterprises. So they started as in 80s and 90s when the companies were trying to adapt PC, and then they went into data center and lately AI. So where we come to play is where the solution like Brian's, hardware like Furiosa, Ampere compute systems, we integrate them into a solution and work with enterprise end customers to deliver value and support them through this journey. Because most of the time nowadays you find the companies don't have the IT team anymore, majority of the time, or they don't have the expertise. So we provide that kind of support, but we are focusing lately on how to get AI into enterprises.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. I really appreciate this. These are people that I've known in the industry for quite some time. Very knowledgeable, and we did select this panel to really kind of give you guys some education, from various perspectives in the industry about really what's happening in AI right now, and especially on the side of AI that is really the more practical side of AI for enterprises and small businesses, anybody who's really trying to kind of take this technology and translate it into something productive, right? Whether it's you're building new features into an existing service, you're trying to actually create productivity for your organization. All these things are really kind of very knotty problems for people. They're trying to figure out what to do, and so we're going to take this kind of sequentially here. We'll talk about the infrastructure first. And so my question for the panel to begin with is really, as we look at the adoption of AI today and maybe some of the inhibitors, especially towards cost-effective, sort of more practical solutions, what do you guys see as the main sort of kind of barriers to that? Brian, would you want to start with that?
Absolutely, Sean. It's a great question because one of the things is, depending on where your organization is and what you're trying to do in AI, right? If you are trying to implement AI within your enterprise, the scale challenges are one thing. But if you're trying to implement the same AI for your end customers, your consumers, the scale challenge is completely another, right? It's orders of magnitude bigger. I'll give you an example, right? If you are an organization with, say, very large company, 50,000 employees, right? Concurrently, anyone using your AI agent or any of your solution, there might be like 50 people using it, 100 people. But if you take the same thing and put it onto a consumer, everybody there on a retail site, everybody will be there on Christmas, right? So everybody will be there during Thanksgiving. So how do you scale AI within these organizations, especially where concurrent sessions are very, very high? We've been involved in a couple of scenarios where we have to scale AI in very concurrent, high concurrency situations. In the past, what happens was like with GPUs and solutions, as AI is evolving, and every day it's a shifting sand, right? What customers have done in the past was they would go for very expensive GPU solutions and also would use off-the-shelf solutions. And then end of the day, when scale hits, they suddenly see that, okay, we are spending 10x of what we should be spending. So there have been very practical scenarios in terms of costs we've done where we were able to save up to 8 to 10x for customers by optimizing their models, right? Because you want to use the right tool for the right job. You just don't want to, like, just because some model is really big, it doesn't mean you want to use them. There could be more optimization. So we've done that in our platform. We also have an optimized runtime where we were able to implement that within larger companies. And recently with one customer that's doing an image customization on their retail website, we were able to, they had a different solution, but then we came in and put it in, and then we were able to go 4x lower, right? So cost is a big inhibitor. It's a big problem as you begin to scale. A lot of AI projects don't scale. The other piece I would also sort of highlight is the knowledge level and understanding of use cases, because a lot of organizations initially start with the shiny object and not really thinking about how do I apply this deeply to my business.
Right, right. So many tools, right? You kind of went through that. The tools are varied from the models that you choose to the infrastructure you choose to put it on from a hardware perspective, storage solutions, so many different tools. Maybe Alex, tell us a little bit more about, from your perspectives, I know your company is really kind of focused on kind of lowering the cost, you know, the barrier of entry and from a cost and hardware.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is really a great question. So, in fact, in the industry, if you looking around, there's a general confusion between they treat the AI as one thing. In fact, there are different phase and different focus. For example, in the training phase and in the inference phase, the infrastructure, the tools that you are using, that a lot of the things are totally different, but the people don't differentiate that. And also they tend to invest the infrastructure for the near term, and they forget the future, how to scale that, how to make their business model valid even, right? That's a serious question. So from our side, from Firuza, that we tackle that problem from the root, right? So we believe the future, the AI should be power efficient, that should be sustainable, not only because of the power efficiency or the environment, but also make all the industry, the practitioners, that their business model can be validated. That means to lower the power cost and lower all the other costs as well together with the partners, and make that not only suitable for the hyperscalers, but also for the different, like a private cloud, edge use case, enterprise on-prem, right? So we need a big variety of different solutions that we are be part of that, and believe that in Ampere, they also have the great solutions, and also like a different scale of the solutions, like RegLab also play an important role. I think this is the industry need multiple different players and from the different perspective, and make this ecosystem more future sustainable.
Yeah, kind of that do more with less concept. We've been, of course, we're cut from the same cloth, Alex companies and mine. So, you know, we've definitely taken that sort of idea of, you know, it doesn't necessarily take, you know, the Ferrari. One of the guys that I work with on my team is just a fanatic about car analogies. It doesn't necessarily need a Ferrari to get to the grocery store, right? And I think that's a real kind of practical sort of notion about really starting to kind of look at the infrastructure with maybe a more scrutinizing eye, right? Maybe Ruben, you can kind of jump in here and talk to us a little bit about that whole solution. Maybe from that, I know that you guys are very effective at kind of building these racks, pulling different partners together, things like that, to kind of create the infrastructure.
Yeah, so this is an interesting transition point, because if you look at the racks and the system which you were deploying previously on the data centers or in the enterprises, they were, if somebody knows it, like a 10 kilowatt or 15 kilowatt racks, which can do enough work for the enterprises, small, medium, even large enterprises which can scale. But when you throw in these large GPUs with a lot of power, which has gone into the other end, which is 100 kilowatt racks and all that. So what that has is two challenges in our opinion. One of them is the data center as it is already existing, is it ready to accept these systems? The second one is the cost associated with that. Because when you want to buy these, the big system, it has users in the training world, but for the enterprises to monetize and get value out of it, they need this smaller system. So that's where Rack Live ASA come into play, working with all these partners and all these different solutions, where we go to the end customer and talk to them. Who are those end customers? Like a small to medium medical offices, which has a lot of data, a lot of document, or you go to government offices like a local government, or you go into some of the financial sectors and all that, where it's a mundane task. And the other one, Brian, I'm sure will mention about optimizing, for healthcare and the hospitals, how to improve their outcome, because a lot of hospitals the rural hospitals are closing out and all that. So if you look at all of those, and those are the people can get AI to get help there. But the problem is it is not the huge hammer, but you come up with a specific solution which is cost effective, power effective, and it can go and solve their problem. And from our point of view, when we started working with all these partners about a year and a half ago, we saw that is coming, because again, there are 3 or 4 of these large guys went and deployed this, big GPU clusters. But what about the small guys? Even the small guys who were using these in the cloud level, they were getting charged arm and a leg. So how do you bring down the cost? I mean, again, our conversation will always go around reducing the cost, and how do you get them, deployable in a friendly fashion part of it.
Yeah.
Actually, one quick thing about talking about AI cost. Someone the other day was talking, and they told me cost of AI is like concert tickets. Every time you refresh the page, it keeps going up. Especially when you add GPUs to them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a great point, because I love to talk about the power problem, right? Many conferences I go to, the power problem is always brought up. We're talking about 600 kilowatt racks now, all this kinds of things. But let's kind of break this down from an access to the infrastructure kind of perspective, right? Because the way I see it, there's this solution at the hyperscale end of things, right? This is typically very, very large scale infrastructure, the infrastructure that Ruben was describing. And now it's kind of evolving into pay by the token kind of service. But it's also kind of evolving into, I'm going to integrate all this stuff into an API that you now know as Copilot or Gemini or whatever, right? So the other end of the spectrum is, a lot of people with really everyday concerns. I don't really want to put my data on the hyperscale cloud. I'm actually more interested in a sovereign solution, all these sorts of things. So let's talk a little bit about access to this kind of infrastructure, because I think this is also one of the biggest problems, is that unless you're going to go pay for the large-scale service, access to infrastructure is a real issue. Who wants to jump in here?
I can take it. It's a very good thought, Sean, because the biggest challenge I think that AI is having is one is of course cost. Second is the access. Your data goes away, right? Because cost-wise, if you don't use the right tools, like cloud, for instance, right? If you just take a hyperscaler, and if you use hyperscaler's default infrastructure and deploy something, that would be like 6x of the cost because there's a lot of pre-investments that have been done, right? So if you take the exact same servers in the hyperscaler and deploy your own inference engines and systems, that might reduce it by a half. It'll be 3x. But if you optimize the models on the same thing, it'll be 1x. So it's like 1, 3, 6, right? So, and then you use more optimized infrastructure like Ampere and others, it can even go down. So the idea is that right tool for the right job on the cost side. Privacy is another important one I would like to highlight is because a lot of times, I don't know if how many of you guys have gone to ChatGPT and clicked on settings and gone to manage memories and see the amount of memory it builds about you, right? It knows my wife's name, it knows my kids' classes, it knows every vendor I've been working with, right?
It's a little frightening.
It is frightening, right? So it was so funny, like in one of the conferences like a few weeks back, I took my entire ChatGPT history and put it into Claude and say, build me a mind map of everything that ChatGPT knows about me. I mean, it knows a lot, right? So it's okay if you're an individual. I mean, our privacy is somewhat going out, but as you're an organization, you want to think about, right? I mean, a lot of your legal agreements don't actually have third-party clauses. If you give your legal NDA or your MSA with another partner into a ChatGPT, you're technically violating parts, right? So organizations want to think about sovereign AI, about how to protect AI, and even protected organizations, finance, healthcare, for them it's even more important. But every enterprise have to start thinking about it more and more deeply.
So actually, Brian, this is a great point because about 2 weeks ago, we presented in a conference with Brian. And since then, we have got people reaching out from credit union, financial sectors, even real estate area. The biggest challenge they were facing was their agent, their people who are working on that, a real estate agent, they are already using ChatGPT like tools to ask questions. Same thing happened in our company where our salespeople started putting some contracts and started asking questions. So then I asked them, just go to outside and ask a question about this tool because you put your data out there. ChatGPT has all the information on you, and now they can go and your competition can ask those questions and find out what you guys have been doing. There are prompting as well as asking questions. So this is the biggest challenge I think we believe in having enterprises. But I think, Brian, you talked about some of the time you don't need to boil the ocean to get your right information. So how do you look at the smaller module, smaller LLMs, and target and fine-tune it? I think that's where I think we believe it is going towards, where we are able to take Ampere system, Furiosa card, and some of the smaller LLM model with Brian's team put together as a system integrator, in heart, I look at it and say, wow, that is going to solve problem for my customer. And each, just approach that way.
Yeah, actually, I want to kind of combine a couple of points you guys made about kind of the size of modeling, right? Because that's also going to be something that is really about access, right? Right now, you get access to a very, very large model. ChatGPT is some of the largest models in the world, right? Some are 1.7 trillion and more, right? Parameters, I mean. So let's talk a little bit about, from an access to infrastructure perspective, like, getting to the smaller models, the models that are more practical to run in a much more cost-effective infrastructure. Alex?
Yeah. I think we should start from to talk about this problem, we should start from the model itself, right? So right now, everybody see how fast the model grows, right? Almost every week, there's some new model drop out here, right, to let people try and everything. But at the same time, you can see that the foundation model, like there's only a few hyperscalers that can afford from the OpenAI, XAI, or a few others, right? Their growth, in fact, is start to fly in the plateau stage. But at the same time, the training the new models cost or using the new model cost keep growing. So in that case, that a lot of the industry expert right now focus on another category that is the open source and also smaller larger language model. Basically, it optimizes for the verticals and which can provide excellent results for the defined scope of the work, which is easily to deploy everywhere on the edge, on-prem as well, right? That is something I think the people see that, especially for the inference stage, that is the place that can generate the revenue and generate the real value for the customers. And I believe that is a different solution from the hardware perspective as well. So when talking about the different hardware solutions, since Sean and I came from the chip side industries, that we can talk about that a little bit more, right? So in fact, the best solution is not about the big or small. It's about the hardware and the software or the model that can work together most efficient way. In that case, in fact, the industry need a hybrid solution. No matter is the running some relevant size of model on the CPU workload is more flexible and it can access everywhere. That's great. And also using the accelerator to tackle the mainstream of the medium size of the model, saying like from maybe 70B, 720B to 200B, that kind of model that is suitable for a lot of the important tasks, right? And also if you want to achieve the best accuracy or best capabilities, you still need to access to the cloud to some closed source ones or the big ones that's still needed, right? You cannot ignore it. So eventually that needs a hybrid solution that working on the CPU, accelerator, and on the cloud. I think that is the stage that we are entering to right now.
Right, okay, thank you very much. I think one of the things that we could do after all this is get to some practical applications, right? Like what are the use cases? And this could be a fun little piece of the segment that I'm gonna ask you guys to stick to landing here. Because we got about, somewhere in 8, 9 minutes. And so I'd like to kind of get, a story out of each one of you, if you don't mind, because I know you've all got them. And then, kind of tell me what that sort of practical application was. Like, what are people really doing, right? And doing it cost effectively, because that's the theme of our panel, to kind of deliver on value, right? And maybe turn that into your final point.
I can start with a couple of use cases. 2 months ago, we started working with a healthcare provider, right? So they had like Ruben mentioned, it's a community hospital. And as you know, in the healthcare industry, as you build the payers, always you get almost about 94% paid. There is some part that's not paid back due to errors or omissions or whatever reason. So we put in an agent there built on our platform to go and do forensic and figure out why these claims are getting denied, how to recover them, kind of a revenue cycle recovery tool. We were able to save a $150 million billing hospital, annual billing of $150 million within 2 months. And the platform was only running for 3 weeks because most were just human discussions before. $17.4 million. That's about 14%. That's when,
massive.
That's when the power of AI, when it runs, it can actually create a huge difference. And then, of course, like I mentioned, on retail, we have a number of use cases, all the way from beauty makeup selection, LLMs running. There was this big beauty provider we worked with where anything that converts below 2.5% of conversion rate for their makeup, they automatically throw in the AI. So we powered that AI, and we were able to get that 10x cost down, but convert up at a much higher rates by AI-based interactions.
Yeah. I love these examples.
Yeah.
Ruben, I'm sure you've got one here. So
yeah, so I have run into a couple of them, actually, two use cases, but I will try to be brief about it. One of them is we are a system integrator. We have history of last 15 years of selling hardware solution to people. and the RMA, the return management, all of these part of it. It is very difficult, and people come in, people go out, and you have all these information. It was never been accessed. Suddenly someone says, I bought this 5 years ago, how do I do that? And how do you manage that? So what we did was we applied the solution we built onto our RMA system. When there's a customer comes and asks a question, the salesperson who's supporting it can directly ask a natural language query into the system and get the answer immediately, rather than waiting for days, waiting for months to get through all these accounting people and finding who supported. And that was one case. Another case was we were talking to a law officers. If you look at a case, there are 6,000 what's called discoveries. There are small documents, small PDF, information coming out to these places for each cases. So when they have that much cases, this is where people miss some of the information, or they don't even know it existed. So now you put all of them, you run the LLM on top of it. So we were talking to a law firm, and they said, my God, this is a godsend, because I could hire enough paralegals or enough people to go and look at these cases to talk about it. Here, it speaks to them in a natural language. Say, do you remember this particular person has this happen? And it immediately comes up and give you an answer. And gives, one of the things is, the difference between the open and this fine-tuned LLM is, it doesn't hallucinate, or it doesn't give you wrong answer. It gives you answer, or it comes and tells, sorry, we don't know about it. Because that way, it is being accurate. And to pitch my product there, we named it AI Accurate in that sense, because it has to be for enterprise. When enterprise people want to use this one, because they are responding to customers, they are responding to some vendors, they need to have a qualified, good answer, and which has to be right. It cannot be guesswork. So this is where we believe the AI Curate product, I work with Brian, and we are putting on Ampere system, it's able to do these kind of things. So it is important to have enterprises able to use this one.
Yeah. Alex, you got a story for us?
I'm thinking there are so many different use cases, right? So I just want to share maybe two quickly. So just talk about using the right solution for the right question. So first one, we are serving the LG AI, one of the top AI company in Korea. So they are searching for the right solution to replace the NVIDIA to serve their AI infrastructure, which serve many enterprise customers regarding the chatbot, coding assistant, or the RAG applications, and so on, so many applications. And they test so many different solutions, and eventually they choose the Freusa to replace NVIDIA. The conclusion is very simple, because after testing all the solutions, they believe that we are the only one that can truly replace NVIDIA. And the result is that we have almost 2.25x of the efficiency improvement. So that's the real case. Another one that is when we're serving enterprise customer, they using the large language model to help them to design the chips, the RTL design. So they are run out of all their GPU capacity on the cloud. It's very expensive, and they couldn't, even they want to pay, they couldn't get enough GPU resources online. So they turn into us and try to build on-prem. And turns out that it provides much better efficiency. So that's the links to the power problem Sean mentioned, right? So with a lot of the enterprise, they have their power rack. The rack power is limited to like less than 15 kilowatts. And in that scale, that we can put multiple of our servers into the rack, it turns out that we can provide up to 3x or more compute density compared to the state-of-the-art NVIDIA solutions. That is still within the x86 framework, but we are talking to Sean. We did some quick calculation. It turns out maybe we can turn that benefits to 4 to 5x more compute density and more cost affordable. So really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you all for those examples. I think you heard a theme in all of this, that there is real value for real use cases that can come and really make an impact on the business. And you don't have to necessarily have a big expensive GPU infrastructure to do it. So I want to thank all of you guys for joining me here today on the stage. Next time we get together, we're going to all have Hawaiian shirts, right? Okay? And if I have to get them for us, then that would have to be the way that it'll happen. But we're going to do that. But thank you all for attending our session today. And if you want to learn more about things that we've talked about, solutions that we're putting together as partners, please visit the booth. It's booth 111, the Ampere booth. You'll see pieces from all of our companies there, and I'm sure some of us might actually be there to actually ask questions. So thank you very much.